10th. Thanks for getting up early with us. We're staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Monday. We're going to let stuff dive into on the big show today. I spent some time thinking about it. We talked about it a ton on Friday. Spent some time over the weekend thinking about it, processing it, trying to see all sides. I still can't make heads or tails what the Atlanta Falcons did with Michael Penix. Still can't figure it out. I saw one explanation that made a smidge of sense. A smidge. Now, maybe, again, this is going to be the future. The future, Justin? Yeah, the future. Because NIL is going to ultimately keep football players and quarterbacks in college longer. It's going to happen. College quarterbacks are going to start staying longer. It is going to make zero financial sense, right? It is going to be the opposite of the NBA. The NBA is going to be play as little as possible because the mystery that surrounds you leads to higher draft picks. We saw that with Shaden Sharp. We saw that a bit with Scoot Henderson. We even saw that with Victor Wembanyama, right? The mystery that surrounds you once you get labeled top 5 potential in the NBA, you should stop playing. Not from a basketball perspective, but from a financial perspective. You want to get paid. If you get slapped with a first round top 5 label, you should stop playing right there. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, right? This goes back to Kyrie Irving, right? Kyrie Irving, what did he play? I always say 16, but it wasn't even that. He played like 11 games at Duke. The more they know about you in basketball, the less valuable you become in the draft. Regardless of how the NBA has changed, Brenden, what if Zach Edey, in his 7'3" frame, played 11 games at Purdue? Or, for that matter, you just saw him playing some grainy video footage of him playing club ball in Europe. I know he's Canadian, but
I would have thought he was a big Jokic.
That guy's top 10 pick. Now he's going to be a second. You want to know why he's a second rounder? We know too much about him. So NBA financial success with the draft, players. If you can get the consensus to believe, practice a lot, work out a lot, don't play any games. But in the NBA, the NFL, outside of a guy like Caleb Williams, which I would say it's 50-50. And I don't know the economics of it. Brenden, can you look up what Caleb Williams' number 1 overall pick, slotted money, number 1 overall pick in 2024, what his contract is set to be? I want to say it's maybe somewhere in like the $8 million range. Somewhere around there. But I'm wondering, unless you are the consensus
$38 million total, $24.8 million signing bonus.
28 over 5 years?
I would assume 4 years.
Like 4 years with an option for a 5th, I think.
Yes.
So
it goes down by about $2 million per
So
spot.
it's about, rough math, about $7 million a year, right?
For example, Bo Nix got $18.25 million, $10 million signing bonus at the 12th pick.
So $18 million. Let's just say he plays out his contract, right? $18 million over 4 years. Boom.
That's a steal.
$4.5 million. Number 12 overall. The money in college football is not going anywhere. The money in college football is not going to start going down all of a sudden that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to start printing their own money. If Bo Nix wanted to come back to Oregon, I bet you he could financially match $4.5 million a year from NIL. Caleb Williams, probably the same thing. So if it's 50-50, you go to the NFL, right? You go to the NFL, get your career moving. But if you're a quarterback right now who is a sophomore, like Arch Manning's not a good example because he's a Manning, but if you are a big-time quarterback prospect, and you were sitting there as a sophomore, unless you are like Caleb Williams in the number one overall consensus, there would be no way, shape, or form you don't play at least 4 years in college, if not 5, if you can get granted a fifth. Now, I don't know if we're still doing COVID years, even though COVID's kind of behind us. There's no way you don't play 4 years. You're going to get better as a quarterback, you would figure. Financially, you're going to make more money. And that's why Dylan Gabriel is an Oregon Duck and not a 7th-round draft pick. You know what I mean? Like Dylan Gabriel, I think I saw him in an interview. He's there at Oklahoma. Played fairly well last year. Gets a draft grade, comes back 7th round. 7th round draft grade. Maybe after workouts, gets punched up to 6th round, but he's sitting there, final round, 7th round draft grade. Worst case scenario, he's invited to camp as an undrafted rookie. He's going to go to Oregon, make a good chunk of NIL, and play another year in college. So these quarterbacks are going to be getting older and older and older, unless they are the Caleb Williams, maybe Arch Manning. I don't. Even Shedeur Sanders. Did you see? Am I losing my bleeping mind? Because we do this every year, the too early top 25 after the Final Four, or the too early top 25 after the New Year's Bowl games. I saw the too early mock draft next year. Shedeur Sanders going number 1 overall. Am I losing my mind?
I tried to tell you that last week, and you laughed me out of the room.
Am I losing my mind? This is the Emperor's new clothes.
I mentioned this to you last week, Justin. I said, look at Shedeur and Travis Hunter in this mock draft from NFL.com, and you go, malarkey.
I still feel it's malarkey. He was 4-8 as a starter in real football. Hey, guys, you can win the SWAC all you want. He played real football for 1 year, 4-8.
I'll say this.
And I don't care how bad his offensive line is. Caleb Williams played against with an atrocious offensive line as well. He managed to win 8 games last year.
We saw
it's not even close.
We've seen Trey Lance go 3rd overall after playing 6 games. We've seen who was the other player who I'm drawing a blank now. Who also did not play, but just like Zach Wilson, right?
Zach Wilson, yeah.
Just really the COVID year. Or, thank you, last year, number 5 overall pick, Anthony Richardson starts 1 year at Florida, goes 6-6.
He at least won 6 games in the SEC.
6-6 still.
Shedeur won 1 Pac-12 game. Number 1 overall.
He might win a lot of Big 12 games this year, Justin.
We'll see.
You never know.
Not
my problem, so not your problem either. So that's Colorado, right?
I feel like this is the Emperor's new clothes. It's yeah, it's great. It's great. Dion, you're a great coach. Is it? Anybody seeing the Emperor's not wearing any clothes, right? Don't tell him. Don't tell him. By the way, I got stuff I saw on the internet later. We got to do some more Colorado stuff. I know the Oregon spring game. I watched a smidge on TV. Got some injury problems. That's the one drawback. And I will say this, because I talk about how lost opportunities and all that with not running a spring game. You do risk injury. A handful of guys got injured, so it's probably one of the big storylines for the Oregon spring game was the injuries. But I think 40-some thousand people showed up. But I saw some stuff from the Colorado spring game, and I'm like, this is the Emperor's new clothes. All right, let's put a button on this Michael Penix thing. So I saw the explanation. The explanation makes sense, except for there's one big, a red flag and orange flag. The explanation is, well, the Falcons believe that with the pieces they have in place and with Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, they might not win the Super Bowl the next 2 or 3 years, but they're going to be in the playoffs. And I tend to agree. If Kirk Cousins is healthy, and with Bijan Robinson, and with Frank, and Kyle Pitts, handful, they're going to be pretty good. And they're probably, if they're not in the playoffs, they're going to be just outside of the playoffs. They are not going to be anywhere near the top 10. So the idea was, well, if in the next 3 years with Kirk Cousins, you're probably going to be drafting in the 20s, get your quarterback now while you have this top, and you have control of him for 5 years, under contract. I get all that. He's 25 years old. Your succession plan is a 29-year-old quarterback. Now, maybe it's not the. That's why I said maybe it's going to be different, but that's where I'm like, you could have sold me on a lot of other stuff, except for the fact that your succession plan is not Jordan Love, who with the Green Bay Packers, who's still in his mid-20s. Your succession plan is a 30-year-old. That's where I'm.
Do you think, Justin,
I'm
that the Falcons started watching Succession and got a little
the show Succession?
Yeah, and then got a little too over their skis and trying to figure out their next
maybe
their next quarterback?
Maybe, potentially. All right. So coming up, I want to talk some TV stuff. Not TV shows, but TV stuff. Bill Orm wrote a column last week. We're going to Bill on in hour number 3. But is there a potential change coming down, not just with the Blazers, but just with the way we watch sports? So we'll talk about that coming up. We got some basketball and round ball rock. But before we get to all of that, I do want to tell you, of course, about Oregon's roofing, siding, windows, and bath experts, proud supporters of Operation Homefront. I tell you about them all the time because they are fantastic. That is DeBella. If you're worried about your budget, upgrading your home not only can help you with that monthly budget by having more energy efficiency and saving you money on your energy bills, but you could also take advantage of federal and state incentives by going with solar. Better Homes and Garden, HGTV, Angie's List, Home Advisor, all have featured DeBella and their excellent work, plus 15,000 plus 5-star reviews, plus no payments until 2025 on approved credits. So check out DeBella today for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, and bath. The experts in the state of Oregon is DeBella. battle to be able to watch our favorite teams in this part of the country. Like I very much remember back in 2005 when I remember going to a bar in Eugene. Shout out to the Cooler. 2005, Oregon was playing Arizona. Oregon was very good. It was a fairly big game. Oregon would ultimately go on to win 10 games that year. They were 10-1 that year. Got absolutely jobbed out of the Fiesta Bowl because of a Notre Dame loophole, but neither here nor there. But Oregon playing Arizona in a fairly big game. And now, Brenden, I was at the time hosting a post-game show. So I did the pregame show from the produce department of a grocery store. That was a weird idea. Then Oregon was going to play Arizona. Then I was doing a post-game show. Here was the problem, though. Brenden, the game wasn't on TV in 2005. 2005, an Oregon football game that I believe they were in the top 25, if not, they were very close, was not on TV. Now, there was a pirated signal that bars could get if they had an old school big giant satellite dish, and Oregon fans packed themselves into the bars, including myself, to watch a pirated feed of what was going to be the replay of the game later on. It was 2005. And I remember going, how come I could go on my TV and I could watch Holy Cross play football on a Saturday. I could watch Air Force, shout out to the Falcons, play, but I can't watch Oregon against Arizona, a conference game in 2005. And how is this even possible? And, well, bad leadership. It's a guy named Tom Hansen. And that's how we got to Larry Scott, which was, again, a disaster. But from that point on, it feels like whether it's college football, college basketball, the Portland Trail Blazers, right, it has been an ongoing fight here in our neck of the woods to be able to watch our favorite sports teams. And it feels like other parts of the country don't have to deal with this. And that brings us to what we were going to talk about, because whether it was just the Pac-12 not having games on, and then it's like Larry Scott came in and he said, gang, don't worry, I got you. Pac-12 Network, what do we think about this? And everybody says, that's great. So every football game and every men's and women's basketball game, whether it is on the Pac-12 Network or on their regional channel, Pac-12 Oregon, they're all going to be on? We're not going to, yep. Now, Commish, I have DirecTV. Well, that's going to be a bit of a problem. Also, hey, Commissioner, I'm from Southern Oregon. We have charter cable, not Comcast cable. We're going to be able to watch it there. No, you're not going to be able to watch it either in your own state. And then there's the Blazers, right? Then it was Comcast Sports Net, right? Comcast Sports Net. Well, it says it right there in the name. They're not going to be on charter cable. So big chunks of the great state of Oregon couldn't watch Blazer games. It wasn't on their cable package. And then, of course, Comcast became, by the way, full disclosure, some of you know this, most of you should. I used to work for NBC Sports Northwest, which is what Comcast Sports Northwest became. I worked there. But it was even just a couple of years ago where sports bars that had DirecTV had to also have a secondary feed just to get Blazer games because of Comcast. Never mind that every sports bar in the country had to have DirecTV because at the time, why? Because you wouldn't make it as a sports bar if you didn't have NFL Sunday Ticket. So we know that sports bars have to have DirecTV. They have to. The NFL rules, especially in sports bars. You cannot have a Sunday at a sports bar and be like, yeah, we just have the local game. You have to have Sunday Ticket. All right, what about Pac-12 Network and what about the Blazers? No, those teams they're not on DirecTV. They're on Comcast. Okay, finally, then the Blazers, and I don't know the inner workings of it. I was just there hosting a TV show, and I just got an email one day going like, yeah, it's over. And the Blazers a couple of years ago made the move to Root. And I think a lot of Blazer fans, because of years and years and years, decades and decades, as I just talked about, of not being able to see their team play because they had DirecTV or they had charter cable, it's like, oh, okay, they're on Root Sports. I checked my guide. I looked through it. I watched the Mariners every once in a while. I've got Root Sports. And then one season in, they're like, yeah, you thought you had Root Sports. Fun little thing. It's on an elevated level now of your cable package. You're gonna have to pay more for that. And we finally saw that come to a head. We saw the Pac-12 fall apart. I don't want to say it was the biggest reason the Pac-12 fell apart. But, Brenden, I would say it's in the top 5 of the reason the Pac-12 fell apart was the failures of the Pac-12 network and the fact that the Pac-12 network never got a foothold and never got in front of enough eyeballs. I'm not saying it's the number one reason, but you know that when USC and UCLA first started the ball rolling downhill of leaving the conference, that there was some snooty USC guy going like, yeah, we're tired of being stuck in 7:30 games on the Pac-12 network. Like, never mind that other than maybe one season with Lincoln Riley, you have kind of been, what do they call it, a non-factor in the conference. But it's still USC, right? It's still fight on and Tommy the Trojan and years and years and years of dominance before, scholarship limits stopped you from cheating and buying all the players. So between Pac-12 Network and now Root, here we are. April 29th, 2024. How are we still having this same problem? With the amount of technology on our phones, because I go back to and again, I'm just coming at this from a fan's perspective. I'm sure it's contracts and conflicts and blackouts and everything else. But I come back to the same discussion that I had in 2005 as I was sitting there jockeying for position to watch a pirated feed of a Pac-12 football game going like, why can I go home and watch Air Force versus Colorado State on my TV in Eugene, Oregon? And I can't watch Oregon, Arizona. That was 2005. And now here we are again, and we're having the same conversation of, wait. Why is it going to be easier next season? Not just slightly easier, significantly easier to watch the Seattle Kraken, a hockey team that has been in existence for 3 years? Why is it going to be significantly easier to watch the Seattle Kraken in the city of Portland than to watch a Portland Trailblazer game? How are we still doing this for 20 years? Now, very excited, and also tip of the cap because timely booking for super producer Brenden. Bill Orm's going to be joining us in the third hour. So now that we have seen the Kraken leave Root and we have seen the numbers that are in, some of it is just the fact that the Blazers are in the middle of a rebuild. Rebuilds aren't easy. Rebuilds aren't pleasant. Rebuilds kind of suck. And we know that because, well, we're right in the middle of it. But to combine a rebuild with a team that can't only be seen on cable, but so, Brenden, you're a cord cutter. You have, is it Fubo?
Yes.
And as far as I know, Fubo, is that the only place that the Blazers are available in terms of streaming, right?
To my knowledge, yes, because there's only one. If you want to have Pac-12 and Blazers, Fubo is your only option.
Fubo is your only option. Not direct.
For someone like me.
Not YouTube TV.
Yeah, because I think you don't get root. You get Pac-12, but not root.
Yes.
There's other ones where you get root, not Pac-12, and it's too much hippity hop, man. It's too I'll say this.
This is my whole thing. 2005, we were having the same conversation. How is this still? So let's try one of our things that we tried to start with this show. We don't always live up to it, but you know what? We try our best. Right? No complaining, no criticizing without a solution. Where do the Blazers go from here? Because clearly, this move to root it's not working. I don't know if you can find a Blazer fan that's like, you know what? Super happy with that move. Maybe the only smidge is if you have DirecTV, right? Isn't that kind of the only benefit? Is if you were a Blazer fan and you had DirecTV, you can now watch Blazer games on DirecTV. That's about it. Even if you were already an existing cable customer, me. You had to elevate to the whatever next level package to be able to get all of the sports. Apparently, I had already done that. I don't do a very good job of paying attention to all of my bills. Most of them I do. Cable, I'm going to pay it. But just out of nowhere, it was just like, oh, nope, went to watch the Blazer game. They're not on. So where do we go from here? It feels like, moving forward, it feels like the way that local sports is going to be broadcast, right? Because when you start talking about sports on TV, right, there's kind of two different animals here. There is the national sports, which is always going to have a place on network TV. It's the reason why network TV still exists, is because you have to play NFL football on Sundays. And that's going to live on CBS, and it's going to live on Fox, and it's going to live on NBC. And football is almost NFL football is kind of its own different animal. But you at least know that if you live here and you are a Seattle Seahawks fan, you're going to be able to watch all their games. You might have to get Amazon Prime for a week if they play on a Thursday night. But for the most part, they're going to be on network TV 90% of the time. Can't do that. At least the thought process was you can't do that with 80-some games of an NBA. Or can you? Because now I see the Seattle Kraken are going to have 70 games on local free TV. You saw the Utah Jazz. What were the numbers? I think 59% increase in viewership this last year. So let's take a look at the standings, shall we? Because I think this is important. Because it's brought up a couple of times. Well, why? Like the Blazers' viewership fell off more than anybody else in the NBA, and a good chunk of that is they were 21-61. We know that. But the Utah Jazz were 31-51. The Utah Jazz lost 51 games. Their viewership this season up 59% from last season. Their viewership's up 59%. How? How on earth could they possibly? Because they made it easy to watch their games. They made it super easy to watch their games. I do this for a living. I do sports for a living. It's hard to find Blazer games. As someone who I would consider myself a cable TV connoisseur. All right, the Blazers, I know they're en route because I was part of that whole deal. Flip it on Kraken postgame. Nope, Root Sports Plus. Now you got to find. Now you can just talk into your remote now, but now you got to find channel 1200 or something else. And is it going to be on Root Sports Plus that night? Is it going to be on the regular? Like the fact that it is that hard to find the games in 2024 is a bit absurd. Again, going back to my opening thought, which was, how are we doing this? And that was 2005. How is it in 2024? It is still so massively hard. It seems simple to me. Now, I'm sure, just like everything else, there is massive complexities here, right? This is probably a layered onion of contracts and blackouts and things that I don't quite understand. But I think in the end of the day, when you see the numbers of the Utah Jazz that are 31-51, they're better than the Blazers, not much. They're in the middle of a rebuild as well. Don't really have a lot of marquee players, and it's not like Salt Lake City is the biggest sports market in the world. But you know what they did? They put their games on TV for free. They made it super easy to find. And then, didn't they have Jazz Plus or something like that, where it's if you were out of the state, you could stream it for $8 a month and watch the games. So my question is, how are we still having this conversation 20 years later? How is this still a conversation that we are having 20 years later? The more and more technology that I can watch any sport ever in my phone. Why is it we still have this problem in our neck of the woods? Are we just unlucky? Pac-12's been a mess. Whether it was Blazer Vision, whether it was Comcast, whether it was then NBC Sports Northwest, and now whether it was there's always something.
Did your family play for Blazer Vision, Justin?
No, we did not.
Because I just went and looked.
Did not pay for Blazer.
And I was able to find
but I knew of it.
I was able to find a very old 24-year-old article that broke down games were either $9.95 or $7.95 per.
That's so much money.
So let's just do the math here, folks. 82 games. Let's say you want to be a diehard Blazer fan. You buy every game. That's $652 a year. Now,
so much money.
That seems like a lot.
It's a lot.
Especially back in the...
Well, you can get they'll probably play on TNT maybe once or twice.
Or you share with some buddies maybe. Have them come over, split the cost. I mean, hey, man, you want to split Blazer Vision with me? Yeah, sounds good,
you know
brother.
what I mean? But so it's from that to... like I said, I worked at NBC Sports, right? Where it was well, if you have DirecTV, you're kind of screwed. Well, what about an app to be able to watch it? Well, yeah, but we're just going to do that with select games. We're now in a spot where, and I've joked on this program, Brenden even mentioned it this morning before we came on the air. I was like, I thought you were Johnny Cable. You said you're never giving up cable.
I mean, is it not true?
For the most part, cable is pushing my buttons, man. But
you love it.
I do love cable. I like what cable used to be. Can we make cable great again? No, we can't, because there are not new cable customers anymore. It's not happening. It doesn't. The business model is over. The only cable customers are Gen Xers like me, who are, to be quite honest, too afraid to give up the remote. Too afraid to give it up. Oh, I pay for all the streaming stuff. I also pay for cable. It comforts me. It's a comforting blanket. And also, I've always had the excuse, well, the Blazers. If you're not going to be on, if cable is going to be slowly going further and further away, the question comes back to the opening of the segment, which 20 years ago, I remember thinking, how is this not possible? And in an era where I think it's a good idea to reach out and show some goodwill to Blazer fans, maybe offering games for free on free TV might be a real fun way, I don't know, to rally the troops. More on this coming up in hour number 3 with Bill Oram. Coming up next, we got Round Ball Rock. We got teams on the brink. The Phoenix Suns have been eliminated as well. Is that a warning to teams with the super teams in the second apron? And by the way, joked about how checking out your ex on Instagram. How are the Blazers' exes faring right now in the postseason? We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. they are cooked. 3-2-1 Cancun. They are off on vacation, even though they'll live in Phoenix. They'll live on vacation. But other teams on the brink of elimination. You've got the Sixers. You have got the Bucks. You have got the Pelicans. And you have got the Los Angeles Lakers. Lots of drama in and around the NBA, including a handful of former Blazers. Let's get into Round Ball Rock. All right, I think probably the biggest story is the Indiana Pacers after a Game 1 loss where Damian Lillard dropped 35 points in the first half. Really hasn't been as much of a factor since because the Pacers have won 3 in a row. Giannis not playing in this series after the strained calf at the end of the regular season. Dame then strained his Achilles. He's not playing anymore either. Like, the Bucks are if they weren't already with Giannis out, they were focusing on next year. I mean, you've got a coach that has been there, 3 months? Doc Rivers has been there. So your coach has been there 3 months. Giannis is hurt. Dame is hurt. Bobby Portis got kicked out in the first half. Like, they had nobody on the roster. And so it seems like the Bucks are done, which who knows how this whole thing plays out, injuries being a factor, but the sports universe is kind of a cruel energy sometimes, right? Because Dame wanted something different. He wanted something better. He wanted to go play with an all-star. He wanted some help when he was in Portland, which I agreed with. Brenden agreed with. Everybody in Portland was like, yes, let's get Dame some help. Let's bring the help here. And then finally it got to the point where Dame was like, I can't do this anymore. Get me out of here. I go to the Bucks. I'm playing with Giannis. And in that season, after Dame requests his trade, leaves, he gets reunited with Terry Stotts for like 2 weeks. And then Terry Stotts has drama with Adrian Griffin. Then Adrian Griffin, his head coach, he gets fired 2 months in. Then Doc Rivers comes in. And they're like, boy, they're losing a lot of games. They don't know if they play like a defense. And then it seemed to get better. They kind of figured some things out. And then Giannis gets hurt.
Do they regret firing Budenholzer, Justin?
They have to, don't
By now,
they?
just how much
I never understood that move.
All over the place, coat hanger. I mean, just like pulling guys in. I mean, it's like it's a comedy. I mean,
I never understood that move.
No, me neither.
Unless
Giannis wanted him
behind the scenes, Giannis and him, there was maybe conflict. I don't know.
Hey, Giannis, you know that old saying Andy Bernard said about the good old days?
I know.
Well, you've had Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers now.
But like I said, it is, and I feel bad. I do. I feel bad for Dame that it ended on injury. I said it earlier. I said it last week. I was like, I understand everything about Dame wanting to get out of Portland and wanting to go play for a contender. I didn't really like watching it. But it does stink that it's going to likely end with injury. But man, the sports universe can be so cruel sometimes. Because it seemed as though the thing that Dame wanted more than anything else was to actually have a chance at a championship, and out in the first round again. Now they're not out, but it's 3-1, and Giannis isn't, like, they're going to pack it in, right?
There's
no way with Dame at 35,
no,
with a strained Achilles, and Giannis with a strained calf, which might also connect to the Achilles. You don't run either of those guys out. They're done like dinner. Also,
now
go ahead.
I'll say this too, and one thing I mentioned to you, and not like I'm not super surprised at CJ not beating the Thunder or
they had their one chance.
Yeah, which it was. It's it really is classic. Like, they had their chance in game one. That was it. Now, here's something I said to you, Justin. By the time, so in 2 months, Dame will turn 34. How many more cracks at the apple could he possibly have? When you see the talent being built around the NBA, the young bucks coming up, the Anthony Edwards, we are in the middle of a guard change, Justin. We're seeing LeBron, Steph, and that era be pushed out now by this new era. And I'm wondering how many more bites at the apple Dame's really going to get. This was kind of the year.
Boston's not going anywhere anytime soon, right? Boston's not going anywhere. If you look at it from the East, right, because all you got to do is get to the finals, then you give yourself a chance. Well, Boston has got their guys paid for the foreseeable future. I think the Knicks have kind of figured out their formula for the next couple of years. They've got their guy in Brunson. What, Jalen Brunson? 47 points
he cooked yesterday. My goodness.
The Sixers are going to fall apart.
Yeah, Justin calls them done. They're out.
I think they're not only done for the playoffs, I think the Sixers are, I think there's a divorce on the way. You don't know this yet because I don't know if you're around enough couples who have been together, but like, you know, when you get in your 40s, you're like, there's a divorce coming.
I think
it is not looking good.
I think
between Embiid and Philadelphia, whether it's the fan base, the organization, and everything else, there's a divorce coming there.
Yeah, and I think Justin, after yesterday, I've always really liked Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, and the Pacers have found their guy.
They're coming, man.
So
are the Magic, for that matter.
Magic are on their way. I still would say healthy Giannis and Dame better than the Magic. I think it would have been a fun series if everybody played in Indianapolis. So there's some teams in the East, not like in the West. When you look at what the Timberwolves are doing, you look at what the Mavericks are doing, you look at what the Thunder are doing, and the Lakers aren't going to sit and be bad for much longer either. They're the Lakers. They'll get a lifeline somehow. It's like, oh, the Lakers are cooked. Kobe tore his Achilles. We get LeBron and Anthony Davis now. It's like the Lakers are going to figure it out. But, yeah, CJ's on the brink of elimination tonight. And then we may talk about this on the other side because I mentioned kind of the end of the super teams, and the Phoenix Suns seem to embody that because the new NBA rules and the way that we talk about Adam Silver a lot, and there are some things that Adam Silver does that I am not a fan of in the league, and I think there's some things that I wish he would get a hold of in this league. But the new apron system, Brenden, I think's working because the Phoenix Suns were the first experiment of we're going to go to the second apron, we're going to pay for superstars, you got to win with superstars. It's like, you can't if you don't have anybody coming off the bench. All right. More NBA talk coming up next hour. Make or Miss coming up next hour. Stuff I saw on the internet as well coming up next hour. It is Rip City Mornings on a Monday, 620 Rip City Radio.
And here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
Hey, it is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. How's everybody doing? I'm doing fantastic. Justin Myers with you. NBA playoff action continued on Sunday. The Timberwolves, that's a sweep sound. They sweep the Suns 4-0, and Phoenix now goes off into the sunset. New York Knicks take a 3-1 lead over the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Clippers even up the series with Dallas at 2 games apiece. Celtics take on the Heat tonight. They're leading 2-0. Thunder look to finish off the Pelicans in 4, and the Lakers look to stay alive. They take on the Nuggets, Lakers trailing 3-1. Bill Oram from the Oregonian joins us in hour number 3, but hour 2 of Rip City Morning starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Monday morning, shaking off the weekend cobwebs a little bit. Coming up in 20 minutes, we have got Make or Miss. Saw some stuff on the internet over the weekend that I definitely want to talk about. Brenden, in the pro wrestling world, which I was in when I was a kid, and then into high school with the NWO, Wolfpack for life. But not so much as an adult. But in the wrestling world, they're called a mark. A mark is essentially a super fan that no matter what they do, you're a mark. They're gonna take your money. You are gonna pay forever, and no matter what you do, it doesn't even have to be all that good. You're just gonna be, and you're gonna get a response and a reaction out of you. Everything Colorado football does gets a reaction out of me. They say leave it alone, don't pay attention to it, irrelevant, right? And I'm like, I can't not react to it. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. I don't know. But stuff I saw on the internet coming up in 40 minutes. I saw something at the Colorado spring game. I'm like, am I the only one seeing this? So we'll talk about that coming up as well. And as I mentioned in the update, very excited to talk to Bill Oram. Both about spring games, right? He put out a column talking about something that we have been talking about on this show for years. For years. I said 3 years ago, that Jonathan Smith, then head coach at Oregon State at the time, was missing an opportunity by not running a spring game. That Oregon State in those years was getting better and better and better, and I could understand it that maybe back in 2018, right? Probably don't want to run a spring game. Coming off of a 1-11 season, you gotta weed out a lot of the bad Gary Anderson stuff. I can understand that. Like what? There's really nothing to showcase, so we're not going to showcase it. We're trying to build this thing up. Well, then once you build it, at some point you got to get out and sell it a little bit. And I always thought it was a missed opportunity. And then obviously we saw the juxtaposition of the spring game going on in Corvallis and the spring game going on in Oregon. And it is not apples to apples. It's not even apples to oranges, right? It is apples to pizza pockets, right? They just don't compare. It's a bad analogy. But Bill Oram wrote a week ago about this was a missed opportunity, which we've talked about on this particular program. Got a lot of hate, got a lot of emotion, and I can understand that. Brenden has told me multiple times. Mike Parker was on the show last week. Both would be like, it's not an easy time being a Beaver believer right now. It's an emotional time. Martinez going to Miami. Did I see that? Or have you eliminated him from your consciousness?
No, remember, I only hate coaches that leave with their tails tucked. Players, I didn't.
Hey, you got one shot of this thing.
I didn't love the way he handled it. He could have handled it a lot better. And Have
Does
fun.
it go down a little bit easier? No, like
Have fun going to play in that offense. Like, good luck. You'll probably score like 20 points a game, and you'll probably get 30 carries.
He's going to get a lot of carries.
But
he's going to get so many carries.
But, yeah, I mean, enjoy playing for Mario. I mean, that does not sound like fun to me. Although Miami, I'd go to Coral Gables, too. Beats Corvallis.
Does it help knowing, like, yeah, did Damian Martinez get a little bit out over his skis with the loyalties? But it's like he's
100%.
He's a 22-year-old.
But you're right. Justin, you tell me things that, like, I can tell you there are things that I would say or do at. Actually, he's 20. Maybe he's 20. Just if he did, he just turned 21 because he's a junior. At 21, Justin.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe he wasn't 21 because remember the whole thing in the car.
He's probably real close. Corvallis PD should bring back up to the forefront. No, just kidding. But no, yeah, I think I can remember identifiably things I said and did at 21. I'd be like, at 25, can't believe I did that. Even now, I go at 28. I go, said and did that at 25. So
yeah,
it's tough.
You
right?
give players a pass, right? You give players a pass.
Now, grown men,
grown adults
that choose to leave your school.
Yeah,
they're snakes in the grass, man.
But it was the juxtaposition of the two spring games, and I thought it was a fair column. Because again, I'm on record. Brenden was sitting here the whole time. 3 years ago, I was like, why would you not have a spring game? Like it's not to get better. You don't run spring game. I can tell you right now, Oregon football didn't get better having a spring game. Like actual football on the field didn't get better playing their spring game for a couple of. But you know what it did? It got the fan base energized. It got people out to Autzen Stadium going, hey, remember this? Because we do. We go away in the holidays and the new year and forget like how great it is. And it was like, oh, here it is. We even got you a post-game concert. Now we're going to go away for a little bit. We'll see you around August, but give you a little taste. And for Oregon State, it is as important of a football season as maybe ever. Looking into the future. So we'll talk to Bill Oram. He also had a column again on the Kraken and what the Blazers could potentially do. And do they stick around for the next year of Root? Do they make a move that maybe financially isn't the best decision, but from a goodwill, from a fan base perspective, is it like the Blazers need to do the Costco rotisserie chicken here?
It seems like a call to action a bit from Bill in this column, and
yeah.
You can tell how good of a columnist he is because he's had a couple of these in like a week span. Kind of
he
like
has
Oregon's,
been on a heater lately.
He has,
and
been.
I don't like.
I
feel bad saying that because I would. It's like telling somebody, like, hey, have you lost weight? It's like, did you think I was fat earlier? It's like,
right.
No, he's been on a heater, and they've been great. Not saying his work has not been always been excellent, but, like.
We turned it up this
maybe
last
it's because
week.
the stuff we talk about, every once in a while, it's like, we don't talk about that. But we definitely talk about TV stuff.
But he's right. I mean, you look at, Justin, you and I talked about it a while back, and we used it as a microcosm of why.
Microcosm's a good word.
Right, of why we think it was a bigger we were like, the fact that you can't view your team is indicative of the ownership not caring about the fans' perspective and the fan experience.
And like I said earlier in the show, we've been doing this for 20 years. More than that. And it's not just the Blazers, right? The Blazers are not even a target, but like they're on the forefront, right, because of this whole Root thing, and then we saw the article with the Kraken. But, like, we've been doing this with Pac-12 Network. We've been doing this with Comcast Sportsnet that became NBC Sportsnet that featured, I would say, a very handsome host of The Bridge. Not you, Fentress. We've been doing this for 20-some years. And I think that's where maybe everything kind of – because – Blazer fans are also Oregon and Oregon State fans, and maybe even some Washington fans, and maybe even some Kook fans. And I think the Pac-12 football part of this is not the number one reason, but it's a reason. It's, again, why is it every time fans in the Pacific Northwest, why do we have to dance for our dinner? when it comes to watching our teams play. So I'm wondering, like, with what the Jazz are doing, with what the Suns are doing, and maybe, but like, we talk about how much we love Costco on this show. We love Costco. One of the greatest things in the culinary world is the Costco rotisserie chicken. They don't make any money off of it. The Costco $1.50 hot dog, they don't make any money off of it. But that's the goodwill that they say, hey, if you come into our Costco and you go all the way to the back and you get that delicious rotisserie chicken for $5, and they are delicious, you're also going to wander past a whole lot of other stuff, maybe a tray of muffins, maybe 175 coffee pods, and we're going to make some money off of that. But we got to get you in the store. It's a thing called a loss leader. Like 10-cent wings. They're not making any money off the wings. But you know what they're making money off of? The 7 beers you drank while eating the 10-cent wings. So while it may not pay off financially to make some significant, and I don't even know if it's even possible. But it feels like after decades and decades and decades of having the fans, both of Pac-12 sports and Blazers, dance for our dinner, please, we just want to watch our team. Okay, well, it's going to be complicated. Like, can we just have somebody in the, and it turned out the one team in the region that decided, you know what? It is not going to be complicated to watch our stuff. It's a 3-year-old hockey team? This is the one? The 3-year-old hockey team? Why is it always so complicated? We just want to watch our teams. We love these teams. We grew up with these teams. We just want to watch them. Costco rotisserie chicken this bad boy, all right? Take a little bit of a hit in the pocketbook, and for ultimate, and guess what? We give Costco free advertising at least once a week because we love that rotisserie chicken.
Well,
and we love those hot dogs.
It's true. And to Justin's point, just to add my 2 cents on this, going back to earlier, the point he made with just in general, like he mentioned 05. For me, it's later. I remember, Justin, Oregon State's home opener, 2011, was not broadcast on television.
Mm-hmm.
That's as recently as 2011, right? I remember growing up in the...
Heck, 2017 was on Facebook.
Right. It's very true. I remember I was at that Hawaii game, by the way. Very nice weather. It turns out the Beavers lost to Hawaii that day.
Tough one. That was a tough one. Had a lot of promise going into that season. Did not end well. All right. So we got Make or Miss coming up in a smidge. Before we do get to Make or Miss, I do want to tell you again, somebody that doesn't make it difficult actually makes it easy. That's DeBella. That's right. No dancing for your dinner with DeBella. Why? Because they have a free, no-obligation appointment for you to talk about roofing, windows, siding, or updating your bath projects. It is free. It is convenient. Schedule in time that works for you. They play with the big boys. That's right. HGTV, Better Homes and Garden, Home Advisor, Angie's List, plus 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google for their excellent work. Plus, you could potentially pay for a brand new roof with savings and federal or state incentives by going with solar. Solar shingles can help you save on your energy bill. Plus, you might be able to take advantage of state and federal incentives. So check out DeBella today for a free, no-obligation appointment for roofing, windows, siding, or bath projects. Operation Homefront Supporter. Of course, I'm talking about DeBella. From now, Bill Orm's going to join the program. He was down in Eugene for the Oregon spring game. He was in Corvallis for the Oregon State spring game and has had a couple of columns with some emotional responses. So very excited to talk to Bill coming up in an hour from now. Also, stuff I saw on the internet has nothing to do with Oregon spring game or Oregon State spring game, but a spring game that the algorithm got me, right? I believe it was Gloria Stefan who told us once the rhythm is going to get you. The algorithm's going to get you at some point when you think like, nope, I've cleaned it. I've scrubbed it. I have not clicked on a link in 4 weeks. The algorithm's going to get you. Something. It got me this weekend. So we've got stuff I saw on the internet coming up in a bit as well. But right now, it is time for Make or Miss. Here we go.
It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good. Oh, my goodness. Oh, and a big miss.
It's Make or Miss here on RCM.
Brenden, are you familiar with Gloria Estefan? Does she stand the test of time? Gloria Estefan, very big deal. The Miami Sound Machine.
Yeah, I can't say it really stands the test.
I would say do yourself I bet you, and I don't know, because the hip-hop is a young man's game. I'll bet you there's some sampling of a Miami Sound Machine thing in something in hip-hop today. Maybe not. I don't know. But
She's, little, like I said,
they had a run. The Miami Sound Machine with Gloria Estefan had a run. Rhythm's going to get you.
Let's see. Let's see some years on this.
Do yourself a favor and just maybe on your drive home today.
Well, considering they broke up 5 years before I was born.
Well, yeah, but the Beatles also broke up before I was born. I know who they are.
Can't say I listen to a lot of the Beatles.
But you know who they are, though.
Yeah, not my jam,
You understand their significance
course,
to the musical world. And their influence on everything that ultimately became.
Can't say I listen to them, though. Not my kind of music.
I understand that, but maybe go back in the past. You might find something you like. I'm just saying, try Miami Sound Machine out.
Okay, so give me a comparison. Is it like, like Michael Jackson pop? Like,
yeah, it was 80s pop. Everybody's having a good time. It was in Miami. They're probably having a really good time in the 80s, if you know what I'm saying.
Who wasn't?
It was like the rhythm is going to, more than just the rhythm was going to get you.
That's fair.
It's just fun dance music.
I'll maybe give it a whirl if I can remember. But yeah, let's go ahead and open up Make or Miss today. Kirk Cousins looking over his shoulder has only begun.
Yeah. Still can't make heads or tails of this move. Still, like, I've been sold the rationale that Arthur Blank wanted a succession plan at quarterback in place and that they did not believe they were going to be drafting in the top 10 for the next handful of years. But spent the number 8 pick on a 25-year-old quarterback that you don't plan on playing for 3 years. I don't understand it. Plus, you're right. This is the part I didn't even think about. Here's what we know about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins can win you a good amount of football games, I believe. I think that the Falcons with Kirk Cousins could win 9 or 10 football games next year. I don't have their schedule in front of me. That division isn't exactly the toughest division in all of football, right? So I think with what they had kind of started to build up, because they were an okay team and then they took a step back, but you put Kirk Cousins at quarterback instead of Desmond Ridder or Marcus Mariota the year before. He's a significant upgrade at quarterback, but I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to win you a Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to win you an NFC championship. I don't know if he's going to win you a division. Get you a wild card. Might even win you a playoff game. But it's at some point, Brenden, the fans make their voice heard.
Might be.
And when you've got the shiny new toy sitting on the bench, and they're going to go on a stretch of 3 losses or something, and because every quarterback goes through the only time this didn't work was when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers just went double bird to everybody and was like, I'm going to go ahead and win back-to-back MVPs right now. And that's why Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, football player. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame scholar. He's saying some weird stuff lately. I'm tired of Aaron Rodgers lecturing me, all right? Let's play some quarterback, but neither here nor there. But he's a Hall of Famer. Kirk Cousins, not a Hall of Famer. He's good, though. It's not like when the Steelers put Mitch Trubisky out there to be the sacrificial lamb to maybe try to ease the transition to Kenny Pickett, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it for the Falcons this year, Justin. Even with Kirk Cousins, I didn't see it.
You see like 9 wins?
No, because I'm looking at their schedule. They, in non-conference.
Let's do this. I love doing this. Give me Falcons schedule. Let's go win, loss.
Yeah, so that like they don't have dates yet, so it's kind of hard to go.
But we have their opponents though.
Yeah, just opponents and like
that's all we need.
But like for example, they play the.
This is my favorite game in radio.
They play the entire AFC West in non-conference. So they play Denver.
They're gonna lose Bo.
Kansas City.
Does Bo start right away?
He should.
You think he starts right away?
He should.
You think Sean Payton just rolls Bo out there?
He should.
Who else do they have?
They signed the other. What was the other dude? Oh gosh, this is embarrassing.
It's all right. Quarterback shuffle has got me. I should know. I'm the host of the show, for crying out loud.
Let's see. Who was their other? I don't want to say bum, but probably. Oh yeah, Zach Wilson.
Well, yeah.
I was like, Zach Wilson. I guess they have Jarrett Stidham on the roster, but I don't.
Stidham, he might be the starter.
Nah, it's gonna be Bo. It'll be Bo. Now that they've invested in him.
Okay, so the Falcons, I love Bo Nix. He's gonna have some struggles.
But they also play, Justin, the Cowboys, the Eagles.
Cowboys get Ezekiel Elliott back. I don't know if that's really gonna do much though.
Play the Seahawks. Play the Steelers. I mean,
well, they're gonna lose to the Steelers.
Like
clearly.
they've got, obviously in addition to all your games against the Panthers, the Saints, the Bucks, their non-conference is kind of like.
I think they got 9 wins in there. Like the Seahawks aren't gonna. Do you think the Seahawks are going to be good? I don't think they are.
I think they're going to be.
I think the Seahawks are going to be bad. I don't think they're. I think they had some serious roster deficiencies. They don't have an answer at quarterback with Geno Smith, and they just let the greatest coach that they have ever had right out the front door.
No confidence in Sam Howell?
No.
Oh yeah.
No,
well,
I don't.
Yeah, I do. I have some.
I don't think the Seahawks are going to be very good.
Yeah, I think
it's going to be a tough transition year before Mike McDonald ultimately kind of builds the team he wants to build.
I could also see them picking up kind of right where they left off, and they've got
just be maybe on the wild card, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got arguably the best draft value defensive player, getting a player who should have went in the top 5, top 10.
What? Did he only slipped because everybody got all quarterback happy and everybody got offensive happy?
Like that, people have called him a mini Aaron Donald, and
Well, let's not get insane. Aaron Donald's maybe one of the top 10 best defensive linemen of all time.
I said people are calling him that.
Yeah,
Justin.
I know. I was not calling you insane. I was calling the people insane.
But yes, so I think there could be something like never count out the Seahawks, man. Even without Pete Carroll, they're still one of the most consistent organizations over the last decade. Now, he was a part of that, for sure.
You see, I would argue their consistency came from Pete Carroll. But then again, I love Pete Carroll. I ride or die for Pete Carroll, and I think it was a massive mistake. Now, I get, at some point, right, get busy living, get busy dying, as they said in Shawshank, and you got to make a move at quarterback at some point. But anyways, so back to the Falcons. So I think they win 9 games because I don't know if the Broncos are going to be very good. I don't know if the Seahawks are going to be very good. Like you said, you got 2 games with the Panthers in there. You get a couple of games with the Saints in there. Derek Carr's with the Saints.
I think the Saints are going to be really
Saints
good.
might not be too bad.
Saints going to be really good. They have, Derek Carr.
The Bucks aren't going to be very good, though. What? I take it back. Baker took them to the playoffs.
Yeah,
the
Saints have a brand new.
What am I doing?
A brand new future All-Pro tackle to defend Derek Carr now, so that's going to help him quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And Alvin Kamara's still a dude. Like, the Panthers will be horrible. I'm not disagreeing with you there. They will be horrible. Bryce Young, have fun getting over that narrative. You'll be compared to CJ for the rest of your life. And Bucks, Mike Evans, did he leave or did he stay? That would be a question for me. Mike Evans stayed?
I thought he stayed, yeah.
Okay, so still Baker and Mike Evans. They went to the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. I know.
So, I don't know.
But, that's because that division is so terrible.
Like Kirk Cousins with You mentioned Kyle Pitts in a good running back stable, but as I mentioned during draft day, who's he going to throw the ball to, Justin?
Michael Penix.
Because I'm looking,
Just throw to Michael
and
Penix.
again, if I was Kirk Cousins, I would have looked at the brass and been like, Romo Dunze would have been really fun to throw to.
Would like that
Instead,
guy.
I have Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, and Drake London. Do you know any of them?
Rondale Moore. I
Okay.
believe.
See, well, I use the Justin, and do you know who they are, Beth?
Yeah.
Like, they better
Man,
hope Kyle
when you
Pitts is ready for, a career
When you're
revitalization.
like me and you don't play fantasy football, there's a lot of dudes
There
in the
are.
NFL that I just do not know.
It's
There's
very
so
true.
many dudes. And then it's like, you know them all because you play fantasy. And so not only do you have to know who's on your team, you got to know who's on the other team.
A lot of receivers and running
And I'm
backs,
like, man, I don't know half these dudes because I do not play fantasy.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. But I just look at their schedule and I see a couple wins against the Panthers. And they got to play the Broncos in Denver. I ain't going against Bo Nix and Troy Franklin in that game.
How about, you see the Troy Franklin stuff that came out?
Of course. I just, yeah. Oh, wait, or Troy Franklin's stuff. Like,
Yeah,
beyond him
so
getting.
apparently, because he fell, like,
He did to the fourth round.
to the
oh, he-
four. And a
fourth was
lot of people said he was, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot. This is what the internet does to you, okay? The internet
not
puts
see
one
this.
thing, one person says one thing, and then it gets retweeted, and then it algorithms, and it looks like it was just one guy, but apparently one guy heard from a source that maybe Troy Franklin didn't interview very well, and that he was
That can
he was
happen.
more concerned about kind of money and other stuff, and there was questions about. But I will say this: whenever I hear of, I joked last week. I was like, look, if anybody ever has problem with weed, draft him. All right, draft the weed guy because
Are you saying-
it's not going to hurt his career.
Now or
also
10
when
years ago?
I hear like, I don't know how in love he is with football, draft him. Who cares? He's talented. Now again, I'm biased, but I think the Broncos might have gotten a steal with a fourth rounder in Troy Franklin. I thought it was a third rounder. Either way, not a first
It
day.
could have been third. Yeah. Let's see.
But the rumors were that he did not interview well and that there were concerns that he did not have the passion that people were. He was more worried about other things off the field instead of on the field.
Interesting. Well,
I watched that dude play football. He's the greatest Oregon wide receiver of all time. It's not even particularly close, and I love a
Two
lot of
things
Oregon
there.
wide receivers.
Yeah, two things there, Justin. One, did you see that the fourth round was the round of duck,
Yeah.
where it was like 4 or 5 ducks just went boom, boom, boom. And second, the draft is weird, right? Because I sat here on Thursday and said, I feel actually I did. I looked at Justin and I said, Jackson Powers Johnson going to be the first Oregon player taken off the board.
Yeah.
Not Bo Nix, not
Nope.
Troy. Jackson Powers. I don't think he went till the third round.
Yeah, he didn't
so
go-
he slipped a little bit. So the draft is weird, man. And
Well,
there's-
this is okay. I say this a lot, and it's going to happen coming up in the NBA draft as well. I get so frustrated with this. People want to be like, that's a first round guy, that's a second round guy, that's a top 10 guy. No. You're a first round guy if somebody drafts you in the first round. If you are of need to a team that has a pick in the first round, somebody who is a quote unquote, oh, it's a third round guy. It's like, no. All those quarterbacks that got picked, guess what? Everybody in the NFL needed a quarterback this year. You see, and you're going to see it in the NBA too. It's like, oh, that guy's a top 5 pick. Well, if whoever's drafting in the top 5 doesn't need that particular player, or if somebody does, then you become a top 5 pick. It's so frustrating. The whole draft thing. I understand the excitement. It's the future. Who doesn't want to get excited about the future? You want to be all bleak and doom and gloom? No, I'd rather be excited about the future. I get that. That's what the draft is about. But like, these doofuses giving out draft grades, like what? And the fact that people still read them. It's like, I know that I can sit here and talk on a microphone fairly well. You know what I know I can't do? Be a GM. Because if I could, it would be Rip City Mornings with Brenden Slaughter, and your boy would be a GM somewhere making a lot more money. Why do we give these people with these draft grades the light of day? How?
For the record, Justin, I would ask you to take me, like very much like a coach takes his offensive coordinator with him.
Package deal?
Yeah, I'd be like, can we make sure that I go
Your
along?
associate?
Yeah, like,
GM?
I'll even take like a general.
You
comm
better be
job.
my yes man.
I'll be the person walking the players into press conferences if you want. I'm like, I'll do whatever you want.
I appreciate sometimes on the show you'll bring a little bit of a contrarian attitude. When I'm a GM, none of that. None of it. Yes, man. I need a yes, man.
So I'll be a yes, man. Then hopefully you'll be so successful you'll win like a Lombardi, and then someone else will go, man, the key to Justin's success might have been that Brenden guy, that director of player personnel. Let's make him GM. Gosh, the NFL is a fun world. You're like, oh, yeah, Bill Belichick's player director of personnel.
Yeah.
Oh, he get a 5-year deal. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
How'd that work out, by the way?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because we talk about all Bill Belichick's assistants, and it's fairly accurate. The GM of the Texans now was the last one to come out of that Belichick hub. And hey, man, he drafted C.J. Stroud.
He did,
right? So
he did draft C.J. Stroud.
I'll give him some credit. But this one's gonna be fun to talk about, Justin. Spencer Rattler should have said no to the short-term Netflix money.
All right, help me out here. Give me some context.
So Spencer Rattler was the next quarterback taken after Bo Nix in the fifth. So Bo was taken 12th overall pick. Next quarterback was in the 5th round.
5th round. Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina, formerly out of Oklahoma.
And he would have been selected higher, except for the fact that at least half of the NFL teams, according to reports, said they had him removed from their draft board due to his demeanor in the Netflix show QB1 Beyond the Lights when he was a high schooler. So, to that point, I think it's going back to when Justin and I said at 21 years old, you make decisions that you regret. Apparently, there were some character issues with Spencer Rattler, Justin, because I didn't watch it. Did you watch that QB1 Beyond the Lights?
I have seen snippets of it. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's in there.
Oh, DTR.
DTR's in there.
But it was 2019.
Was it Tate? Martell Tate?
Yes, back before COVID. And I didn't watch it, but it just said he got suspended for some time. And apparently they never talked about what that was, except it was a childish mistake.
All right.
So,
let me
I don't know. It's interesting.
This, and I don't say anything usually with 100% certainty, but I'm going to say this with 100% certainty, that if you are in any kind of player evaluation title in the NFL, and you are not using your own eyeballs and using your own judgment, and you are instead watching something that was hacked up and edited as a TV show to determine it, you are an idiot. And you're not, NFL, not for long. You're going to be here, not for long. I watch reality TV because it is entertaining. I do not believe it is real life, and I know exactly how those things can make people look. I have a hunch that maybe it was either an excuse, or do you think this is maybe spin from Spencer Rattler's side to where it was like, not his fault, Netflix did him dirty? I think this might be some Spencer Rattler spin.
Well,
because I have a hunch that nobody worth their salt in the NFL is ever going to take a quarterback that they believe can help their organization be better because of a silly show from 3 years ago.
Well, Justin, as you know, things like
but if they did,
things like character
idiot.
seem to matter.
Sure.
Things like Wonderlic score seem to matter. I'm curious.
Yeah, except remember CJ Stroud massively failed the whatever, not the Wonderlic, but the new one that they have. Last year, that was the big story coming out of the combine. CJ Stroud miserably failed. It's like,
no, you're right. You're right, because actually it was still the Wonderlic test. He got, wow, that is, well, at least CJ Stroud afterwards said, quote, I'm not a test taker, but he got 20% while Bryce Young got 98%.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't it funny that in every job we elevate these guys and they're still idiots? They're still dumb people in every job. And anybody that would look at a Netflix show and be like, Rattler's off the board. I just watched it. That's some draft day stuff. That sounds like the draft, like
maybe it's more
Sonny
realistic
Weaver Jr. Maybe.
Than Justin cares to admit.
Oh man,
okay. If there was a part of that you could believe, Justin, it would be that they have like a guy who searches secretly for like stuff. Hey, did you find this on the background check of this kid?
Oh, I guarantee you they've got private investigators.
Like that.
Yeah, that I would more than watching it. If the guy is a private investigator is watching a Netflix show, like he is bilking them out of millions. All right, coming up, stuff I saw on the internet. Next, 620 Rip City Radio. and just go, and move on. And a lot of stuff I do, but a lot of stuff I can't. And Colorado football over the last year has really just sunk its teeth into me. Because, well, it's hard to avoid. My algorithm has figured it out. Deion Sanders is an enigma. He is one of the biggest personalities in not just in college football, but in all of sports. He is doing things incredibly different. Don't know if it's actually working. And I thought I gave Colorado their due last year. Because I'm watching it. I was watching this whole experiment, and I go, in the back of my head, I was going, I don't think this is going to work. I think this is all flash, no substance. I think this is all sizzle, no steak. I don't see how this is going to work, but maybe I'm the wrong. Maybe I just don't have it. Maybe I just don't see it. And then they won 3 games in a row, and everybody, and I'm like, did I have it wrong? And like, no, turns out I didn't. They went 4-8 in their first year. They went 1-8 in Pac-12 play. They had absolutely no chance against superior opponents. And
Played really good against Oregon State.
In the end, it was year one of a rebuild. But we were sold. Innovation. I'm smarter than everybody else. Look at and you can always tell when something's not exactly working, because then everybody just goes to the money. Well, look at the money. Look at how many people are there. Look at the eyeballs that are on. You can't be wrong, right? No PR is bad PR. And I'm watching like the media, which I am part of, fawn over this whole thing going like, if it were any other coach, regardless of experience, football background, if it was any other coach other than the guy that clearly a lot of people in the media like and were fans of, like I was growing up with Deion Sanders, if it were any other coach who came out and said, "Ooh, we coming. Oh, all you guys are all to first meeting. You're all trash. You better pack your bags because I'm bringing my Louis Vuitton luggage." If you're any other coach in America and that coach went 4-8, that coach would be either rightfully criticized or ignored as a joke. We didn't do that with Deion Sanders. We kept 3 wins in. They might win the college football playoff. I was like, Shedeur Sanders might win the Heisman Trophy. And I felt like it was like the Emperor's New Clothes. You familiar with the tale of the Emperor's New Clothes?
I sure am. Good.
It is a good tale of, hey, surround yourself with the right people, not just people that tell you you're the best all the time. And everybody keeps telling Deion Sanders, whoever is surrounding him, and people in the media are like, "Oh, you're doing it right, Prime. Keep going." And then they go 4-8, and it's like, "Oh, it's the offensive line's fault. We got to go get new linemen. It's the offensive coordinator's fault." Remember, we fired the offensive coordinator halfway through the season, and then changed play calling duties, and it's like this fault. It's like, yeah, you're right, Prime. You're doing it different. They're all haters, and then it's like, and then remember, it was the Pac-12's fault because these games are so late. Like, dude, welcome to college football. It was everybody else's fault. The spring game happened this week.
Interestingly enough, Justin, that coordinator that he fired that you mentioned, now the head coach of San Diego State.
That is interesting. So Colorado had a spring game. Oregon had a spring game, right? And look, I joke around about it. Matt Kearney, not my favorite. The song they play at the end of the first quarter, it's cool with the highlights and everything. Doesn't really get me jacked up as a football fan. I mean, it's no crank it like a chainsaw, let's be honest. All right, that wasn't unnecessary. But it's become a thing at Oregon, along with Shout. And so Matt Kearney, who's a Eugene native, he's going to play the spring game. And all the Colorado fans, look at Oregon trying to be like Coach, because Coach Prime had YG and Lil Wayne Now, I know who Lil Wayne is. Who's YG? Should I know? He's a guy you know?
Yeah, YG's a little older now. Kind of into like rap.
Mm-hmm.
Probably was big probably 5-6 years ago.
All
So
right.
he's a little older, but YG's still pretty big.
And then Shedeur Sanders took the microphone to perform his song called Perfect Timing that he opened up for Lil Wayne. I want to play it for the people, but Brenden, it is filled with such bad language, even you could not edit it. And you
It'd be
are
very bad radio.
You are an editing. We had a meeting about, hey, ever in question, don't play it. But I don't care about the language. I grew up in the 90s, okay? I listened to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and like language.
Dirty rap, essentially.
I was there at the birth of gangster rap, okay?
Exactly.
I
Call it
had
what it is.
NWA hidden in my sock drawer, okay? The cassette tape. The language is not. It is so bad. It is so bad. And then I see on all the Colorado fanboy sites, they're like, Shedeur's new song is fire. Now, I don't know what the hip hop is, but Brenden, I'm going to have you listen to it during the break. You're in the game, right? You pay.
It's on Twitter, you said?
Yeah, I'll shoot you a link. I want to play it for the people, but the language is so bad, and he is rapping over a track of himself, which some artists do that. But he's mistimed it out, so there would be one bad word, and then there's the bad word of the track behind it, and it's like we couldn't even edit it out. The fanboys on here, they're like, this song is fire, and I'm like, this is the Emperor's New Clothes. I can't be the only one going crazy. And then, of course, I see the ratio on there, and there was a trend in the 90s. In the 80s, too. Started with the Super Bowl Shuffle. Super Bowl Shuffle was a hit back in the 80s. It was a fundraiser. And then all of a sudden, these athletes are like, we need to make the next Super Bowl Shuffle. And then athletes decided, I can be a recording artist. Turns out, no, you can't. It takes talent and ability, which is why I've always respected Dame from that perspective. His songs sound like normal songs. But
Dame still has a few bangers. It's lately I've been more in the skip when it comes on the rotation, but
he puts out a song and it sounds like a song.
Yeah.
You go back and listen to Deion Sanders' Must Be the Money from the 90s. It sounds like a football player trying to be playing. He's playing a part. It's cosplay. It's costume party. Everybody around Colorado keep telling him how great they are and how great Shedeur is, and he could put on a song with Lil Wayne. This is the Emperor's New Clothes. All right. Hour number 3 coming up. With some more basketball stuff to talk about. Bill Orm's going to join us. We've also got the RCM mailbag. That's all next. 620 Rip City Radio.
Here's what you need to know.
From the Goldberg Jones Sports Desk, your 620 Rip City Radio headlines. Goldberg Jones. Call 1-800-DIVORCE.
Oh, it is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA playoff action from the weekend. The Timberwolves sweep away the Phoenix Suns. Timberwolves now move on to the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. The Suns head off into the sunset. New York Knicks have a 3-1 lead over the Philadelphia 76ers after a win yesterday. And the Clippers evened up the series with Dallas. That series sitting at 2 games apiece. We got 3 games tonight, as the Celtics will be taking on the Heat. Celtics have a 2-1 lead in that series. Thunder look to close off the Pelicans. They lead 3-0. And the Lakers staring elimination again in the face. Could it be a gentleman's sweep? With the Denver Nuggets looking to move on to the second round, they take on the Lakers tonight. Bill Oram joins the show in 20 minutes. We've got an RCM mailbag, other NBA news and notes. We start hour 3 of Rip City Mornings right now on 620 Rip City Radio.
The home of the OSAA is 620 Rip City Radio. It's RCM with Justin Myers, right here on your home of the Portland Trailblazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Happy you are here. Glad you are part of the big show. I got some thoughts on the NBA over the weekend. Before we do that, I mentioned that on my Twitter feed, I got the clip of Shedeur Sanders, quarterback of the Colorado Buffaloes, heading into the Big 12. I should not worry about Colorado. I shouldn't. But I can't help myself at this particular point because I'm seeing what I think everybody else is seeing, which is a celebrity has taken over a Division I football program and turned it into a Pop Warner program to showcase his kid. But nobody wants to say anything because that particular head coach and that dad, it's like, you're growing up in Little League, and then the rich kid's dad takes over and he buys all the team like new equipment, and it's like, yeah, so now my kid's gonna pitch now, and it's like, we can't really tell him no because he might take away. Like, we all got really nice backpacks, and he bought them, right? Like, such and such landscaping just paid for all the uniforms. I guess we got to let him. Colorado is like, I guess we got to let Shedeur rap at the spring game. I mean, okay, sure. Now I saw it and I laughed out loud. I wanted to play it for you guys. Can't.
Just look it up yourself.
Far too many, and not safe for work. Far too many obscenities, which again, that neither here nor there. Brenden knows me off of this microphone. I talk like a sailor, okay? I do not have I don't have sensitive Sally ears when it comes to curse words, or in particular when it comes to the hip and the hop. But we can't play it for you because we have rules, all right? There's rules. And Brenden is as good of an editor. He can cut stuff up. I don't even know if I would have you try to cut that up. But off the air, you saw it. I'm not wrong, right? This is absolutely awful.
This is something that
is one of the worst things we've ever seen.
it should be scrubbed from the internet, but like
But the fact that it was put out there by a fan site going like fire.
Yeah, see, this is rap that should be limited to SoundCloud, and therefore a lot of people who think
SoundCloud's still a thing. SoundCloud's still in our world.
Yeah, because
I was on the SoundCloud.
It doesn't
for a while.
it doesn't quite have the rules that YouTube does and all that. Like you can kind of just like again.
I'm pretty sure I've got a SoundCloud account because
as do I.
I did a supplemental podcast a long time ago, and I was like, where do we put it up on?
Yeah.
SoundCloud.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, there's still, like, I don't want to say every wannabe rapper, but I could name you 5 just off the top of my head that I still listen to that started on SoundCloud. So that became the way where you'd upload stuff to SoundCloud, you'd see if it toiled away in mediocrity or it would pop. Justin, this
now
should
you just
be
put it on social media, right?
This should be toiling away in mediocrity.
It's so mediocrity is such,
and that's a kind word.
That's so generous.
Hey, I'm keeping it G-rated for the radio. Justin.
Trash is what I was coming to mind. Trash.
Like I said, to me, it's disrespectful opening up a great artist like Weezy. Like he was opening up Lil Wayne. I'm sorry. That's Wayne would be like, take the mic back. He'd be like, all right, go sit down, shitter. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Also, it
now.
is interesting. Hey, who knows if Colorado's going to be good? And maybe I'll have egg on my face at the end of all this. I doubt it.
Watch them go like 10-2, and you and
Yeah,
I are just-
look, I will come here and I will say I'm a big dumb doofus. I've done it before. I'm not handcuffed to my own opinions. I am willing to change. And I'm willing to be proved wrong. All we're doing is just yapping here. But I doubt it. I doubt that's going to happen. But listen. We're going to talk about spring game and spring game attendance numbers. And I think spring game attendance numbers can be overrated. It can be. Oh, and Oregon put 40,000 people in Austin Stadium. That's awesome. Oregon now, to their credit, over the past 2 decades, has built up the spring game to an event. That's how you do it. I did see some people go like, oh, look, the shine is off the rose in Colorado because they went from they sold out, essentially, their spring game last year. Remember in the snow and Dion's with his cowboy hat and everything else? And then they had 28,000. They still had like the second largest crowd in Colorado spring game history. But you get a free Lil Wayne concert if you go. I mean,
Lil Wayne's heyday has passed him by, but he's still pretty popular.
If you're in or anywhere near Boulder and go like, we can go to see Lil Wayne for free. We just got to go to the Colorado spring game. I could see that. All right, completely shifting gears because I want to talk about this before we get to Bill Oram, which I'm excited to talk to Bill about a lot of stuff, in particular spring game and spring game attendance and marketing and everything else. But are the Sixers and Joel Embiid headed for a divorce? It seemed unthinkable a month ago, right? Because remember, like the Sixers, they were pushing Embiid for MVP, right? He won the MVP last year, and then there was all of the hot takes about, oh, did he play? Do the new rules that the NBA making NBA players actually play NBA basketball? Do the new rules put players' health in danger? No, guys get hurt in sports. It's just you can't ever alleviate it. It's just, or eliminate it, I should say. You can't eliminate it. It's going to happen. And then Joel Embiid worked himself back, and there was a big question, right? Should the Sixers just shut down the season, get into the lottery, get Embiid healthy, come back next year? And Embiid came back, to his credit. He came back, and they went on a run, and they not only made it into the play-in, but they won the play-in, and they got a chance to take on the New York Knicks. New York Knicks were without Julius Randle. And it was like, look out for the 76ers. And we talked about it on this show because we played the game. Is this team dangerous or not dangerous? And I think we all kind of agreed that the 76ers with Joel Embiid, a little dangerous. Not to maybe beat the Celtics, but a little bit dangerous. There is trouble in Philadelphia, Brenden. Because on top of being down 3-1, and obviously if you know anything about sports in this country, Philly and New York, not really the best of bros. It's not quite Boston, New York, but it's still there. The city of brotherly love and the Big Apple do not really see eye to eye. And now you have the New York Knicks essentially throwing a house party in Philadelphia. Is it the Wells Fargo Center? Yeah. Used to be the Spectrum. That's how old I am. It's the Wells Fargo Center. But apparently there was massive amounts of New York Knicks fans buying tickets on the secondary market. What is it? It's like a 2-hour trip from New York to Philly. Something like that. I don't think it's like maybe 2 hours on a train.
You were in that neck of the woods more recently than I was.
I didn't go to Philly, though. I went the other way. I went north.
That's true.
To Boston.
Let's see. So you can drive it in an hour and 42. You can train it in an hour and 50. Gosh, you got to love trains on the East Coast.
Boom. Just hop on a train.
I'll tell
2
you
hours.
this, Justin.
You're in Philly. You're at the game, secondary market, to where they were not only inundating the Wells Fargo Center as New York Knicks fans, but I believe they started chanting F. They didn't say F. They said the real word, the dash word. F. Embiid. And so now, Joel Embiid, he's not very happy. And Philadelphia fans have been called out. Now, remember, Embiid was there for the whole Ben Simmons fiasco. Embiid was there for the whole trust the process. And he was the one that when Philly probably had their greatest chance and Kawhi Leonard crushed their dreams with the bink, bink, whoosh. Remember that Game 7 shot? And Embiid's crying out. In an NBA where feelings matter, it's a league that is run by feelings. It is a league that is run by emotion. Yeah, it's run by money as well, but the money is usually determined by emotion. If players aren't feeling it, if feelings get hurt, breakups happen, and they happen very fast. If Philly loses in New York, which I think they're going to, Joel Embiid has now called out the fans. The fans are not going to take this well. I don't know if it's next year or if it's the year after. I see a breakup coming. I do. I see a breakup coming. You know this when you get older and you start hanging out with only couples, and you can just look around and be like, yeah, they fought in the car on the way over here. It's very tense. Like, they're trying to play this off right now, but yeah, I'm pretty sure they fought in the car on the way over here. And when you start calling out the fans and then the fans start looking to you. Brenden, do we see a breakup with the 76ers happening? Are we on the brink of potentially a summer of Joel Embiid's DMs, probably from Miami, going like, hey, come to Miami? How long before we see the Joel Embiid trade request come in? It's got all the beats. It's got all, like, thought he had the help. Help's got, remember James Harden? Oh, we're going to bring in James Harden. Didn't work. You keep bringing in, not working. Change coaches. Didn't work. Dealing with injuries. Time's running a little bit short. Now you're mad at the fans. And the Philadelphia fans, well, they don't really take kindly to criticism. They're a rowdy bunch. Threw snowballs at Santa Claus one year at Christmas during a Philadelphia Eagles game. When they built the Lincoln Financial Field, Brenden, did you know there's a courtroom in the bowels of Lincoln Financial Field? Yeah. When they built the field on Sundays, if you get arrested for drunk and disorderly, like you make a scene at the game, you go into I believe a drunk tank that's there at the stadium, and then you see a judge, and they start processing you. That's how Philly rolls. That's nuts. Yeah, that's how, like, they got a judge there, not to watch the game. He's there to deal with the drunk and disorderly. So you get processed. Here's your ticket. You've been processed. Fine's coming. They're going to break up. Mark my words. I think also Kevin Durant and the Suns are about ready to break up as well. That one did not end well. I don't think you're
saying Nurk wasn't the missing link?
Shockingly, no. Nurk and Nasir Little and Drew Eubanks. I love Drew Eubanks, but still. The fact that you got 3 Blazers on that team and you think you're going to make it? No, not going to happen. All right, here's what is going to happen. Friend of the program from the Oregonian columnist, Bill Oram joins the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is the tail end of the month of April. The Blazers are not in the postseason, and Oregon State wrapped up their spring showcase last week. Oregon wraps up their spring today with the final practice, but had a spring game, which was a glorified scrimmage. And you might think, well, with scrimmages and not in the playoffs, not a lot to talk about. Oh, no. There is much to be discussed, which is why we are very excited to welcome back to the Big Show columnist from the Oregonian, Bill Oren, back on the Big Show. Good morning, Bill. How we doing?
I'm doing great, Justin. Are we here to talk about the crumbling of the Phoenix Suns? Is that the topic of the day? Yes,
the second apron and the first culprit of the second apron. I also think the 76ers and Joel Embiid are headed for a divorce, but we've got some other things that we can discuss. Because let me tell you, Bill, not to throw anything out about your past work, because it's always been excellent. I've enjoyed reading it. You were on a heater these last 2 weeks. Does the laptop feel different? Because you're on a run these last 2 weeks. I've very much enjoyed it.
I appreciate that. I don't know. No, it doesn't feel different to me. I mean, the keys are the same size. It's still a QWERTY keyboard. But I mean, no, there's definitely been some things that have, gotten my attention and maybe gotten my hackles up a little bit as well. But, it's, I've always said it's my job to sort of identify an issue and kind of wedge myself right in the middle of it and get people talking and try to get the conversation started. So sounds like you think that we've done that at least this week or the last week or so.
I would say so. Let's start with what probably drew the most attention, which was your column a week ago about the spring showcase in Corvallis. And we've talked about it on this show. I've never understood why Oregon State hasn't really kind of embraced the spring game. I think maybe some of it is just numbers. I think also some of it is that's what the other team does, so we don't do that. And then you came out with a column, and knowing that Oregon State has never really embraced the spring game, but maybe it is time to do so. And then, of course, after the reaction, doubled down and kind of looking ahead into the future. I know you mentioned it in your second column on the subject, but what are the things that you think Oregon State football, in what I think is a very pivotal season ahead, not with the football being played on the field, but kind of the selling it to the fan base and keeping them relevant, what are the things from a marketing perspective that Oregon State's going to have to do moving forward?
Well, I think it's going to have to sell itself, and it's going to have to figure out how to. I mean, I don't have like the specific answers here, Justin, but you're coming into some cash from the dissolution of the Pac-12, and obviously a lot of that money, maybe all that money, is earmarked for going out and buying schools essentially to rebuild the conference, which is obviously priority 1A. But I'd be figuring out like, hey, could I buy my way onto a better television deal? Could I be paying my way onto a streaming platform? Could we put Oregon State and Washington State? Could we, for X amount of dollars, could we get on Apple TV? Could we do things that seem more innovative than just sitting back and kind of letting this whole thing play out around you? And I'm sure there are people at Oregon State who are rolling their eyes, saying, "Hey, you think we haven't thought of that? You think we haven't, thrown everything against the wall?" And I'm sure they have. But I just want to see more ambition from Oregon State and Washington State in this moment, because I think, and the spring game isn't necessarily a big deal. Like, it didn't rub me the wrong way a year ago when they didn't do much for their spring game. It was just sort of like, oh, they don't make as big of a deal about it. Okay. But you had a conference to fall back on. Mm-hmm. You had sort of you had a framework of kind of who you were. Right now, that's all shattered. And so, as you're kind of, going out on your own, you're a freelance football team, essentially. You've got to market yourself. And so the spring game, I thought, was just a first step and a missed opportunity at a first step toward just showing some more ambition and some more thoughtfulness about how you interact with your fans, because there were opportunities, in terms of how you market the event, what you offer fans, pregame, postgame. And instead it was, essentially, an open practice they opened the gates. And that was that. And there are schools that do it that way. Not everybody does it like Oregon. It makes it a massive event. But at Oregon State, you are looking for opportunities to show that you're okay and that you're going to be okay. I thought that should have been one.
Bill Orm from the Oregonian joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I also thought it was again interesting, and I don't want to spend this whole time just sitting in my ivory tower of a radio studio looking down at Oregon State, because I understand. Look, it is not an easy time, and super producer Brenden has told me it is an emotional time in Corvallis because of with transfer portal and the uncertainty and everything else. But I kind of go back to, you talk about missed opportunity. And it's impossible to not compare the two. We all grew up comparing Oregon and Oregon State. Maybe it's going to be less and less moving forward. It's possible to not compare the two. And I understand the whole flash and Nike money and everything else. But I also saw that both programs had a first-round draft pick. Oregon put out a mini movie. Oregon State put out a couple of retweets. I see, again, more opportunities where it's never fun to dance for your dinner, but it might be to that point where you're going to have to, if you're Oregon State, from a marketing, social media perspective of just kind of like, hey, more is what is called upon us here.
Yeah, and I had somebody suggest to me, kind of as things were falling apart last year, that Oregon State should have seen this coming and should have been doing more sort of out there things in years past. Playing at odder times on odder days, playing 9 a.m. games to build some recognition on the East Coast and stuff like that. And that sounds crazy to me for a team that has 108-year history in a Power 5 conference. But now here we are, again, without that, I do think some of those notions make sense. Play some Sunday games. Could you play a Sunday game, Labor Day weekend? Play a Week 0 game. Don't be afraid of, weird times. I mean, if you could get on, if you could strike a deal with something a little, more visible than the CW, but it means playing a game at 9 a.m. Pacific time, that should be explored. And so I do think that, Oregon State has obviously been beaten down badly by this situation. And a lot of this I do think has been out of their control. I mean, the transfers have just been absolutely gutting. I mean, the emotional connection that people have to the university is obviously immense. And, that's the players, that's the teams, that's the hope that comes with being a sports fan. And that has all just been, stomped on over the last year. You lose the identity of the Pac-12, you lose these players that you have started, to have some connection to. And it's not just the players themselves, but it's sort of the pipeline of players coming in, and like this expectation that the players who are coming in are better than the ones who have left or the ones from the previous season. There's going to be a steep drop off kind of across the board at Oregon State, with the possible exception of baseball. We just don't know. But so, I mean, Oregon State has just had, has really had a terrible, terrible 6 months, but that doesn't mean that they can't be doing things now to try to get back up off the mat.
Do you think a connection with Washington State and maybe two heads better than one kind of moving forward? Because those two have obviously been linked. They didn't ask for it, but the universe just kind of put them together, even though they kind of has always been like, right, my enemy is my friend. But the universe and the powers that be in college football have ultimately linked Oregon State and Washington State. Does this need to be like, hey, let's get all hands on deck? And start looking for, like you said, all these options and almost go in with a dance partner as opposed to kind of being on an island by themselves?
Well, I think so. I think there's strength in numbers, and I think they are on islands, in a sense. I'm sure if the Big 12 wanted Washington State, Washington State would have no problem leaving Oregon State, in its dust. But at this point, as surviving members of the Pac-12, as flagship institutions in the Pacific Northwest, land-grant universities with similar ideals and values, it does make sense for them to sort of move as a package deal. It makes sense for if you're going to start rebuilding the conference that you use those two kind of as a starting point. So I really do think that they are, as you described, they are kind of dancing partners going forward. They've kind of shared in this. Being spurned in this moment. So I do think that those two schools you're going to see kind of move together and make decisions together going forward as the two remaining members of the Pac-12, which is continuing to function as a conference just with two teams.
It was very interesting seeing that there's still a Pac-12 logo on the Autzen Stadium turf, which I was a bit surprised by on Saturday, and the Pac-12 network was still calling the game. It kind of, I mean, you were there. I was watching it on TV, but it kind of felt like kind of eerie, like we've all been to the mall that's about a month away from closing, right? Like there's just one thing you had to get. You walk in the mall and you're like, boy, everybody's here, but it just isn't quite what it was. That's kind of what I kind of felt watching the Oregon spring game with the Pac-12 network broadcasting and Pac-12 logo still on the field. Is like, boy, this has a weird, well, let's run out the clock kind of feel.
It did, but it was interesting. I guess I was looking at it more from a different perspective. I totally understand what you're saying, and that makes a lot of sense. As it's kind of the last little linkage to the Pac-12. Mm-hmm. But it really did feel like, this was kind of the final step before the move into the Big Ten. If I could just flip that a little bit.
Yeah.
And the idea that they, are on the cusp of something pretty cool and something big and new. And, I will mourn the Pac-12 for as long as I live. I mean, I think this has been an absolute travesty. But, I am starting to get a little bit interested in what it's going to look like for Oregon in the Big Ten. I mean, this should be a really good football team. Are they going to go in and be, a top team in the Big Ten in year one? I mean, you wouldn't expect that from anybody just into making that transition. But I mean, they could win the Big Ten if things, break right for them. So I have a lot of curiosity about what this is going to look like. And I kind of started to feel that on Saturday. You start seeing some of these players, I mean, that they've got, they've obviously upgraded in the secondary. The running backs look really good. Dylan Gabriel is going to be just fine. Dylan Gabriel needs like 5,000 yards to be the all-time passing leader in NCAA history, which, I mean, of course, is a little bit of a fool's gold stat now because of guys playing 6 years. But still, nonetheless, a chance to have done more than anybody else in college football history is, worth paying attention to. So to me, it did feel like the end. It also felt, it was interesting, and I wrote about this because the final rounds of the NFL draft were playing in the press box before kickoff. Oregon sent 8 players in the NFL draft, which was a school record. And it's like you would think when you put 8 players in the NFL draft, including a first round a quarterback, his center, his running back, his preferred receiver, all that. There'd be some drop off, or there'd be position groups where you're like, oh, it's hard to replace X. I think this is a function of where we are in the modern era with the transfer portal, where it's just a lot easier to go shopping, so to speak. But it is kind of incredible that Oregon lost that much, a school record number of NFL draft picks, and we're talking about them being even better next year. So they are in a really interesting spot. I'm fascinated to see if they can actually deliver on what I think are going to be just huge expectations in the first year of the Big Ten, first year of the expanded playoff. But definitely bittersweet to see kind of them preparing to take that step under Dan Lanning as the Pac-12 goes away.
Bill Oram, columnist for The Oregonian, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Shifting gears a bit, but I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, Bill, with regard to the TV situation with the Blazers and the Kraken, which I want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts of it. But I told the story. I remember being in 2005. I was hosting an Oregon football pre- and post-game show, and I had to go watch a pirated feed in 2005 to watch Oregon, Arizona. Caleb Clemens would break his leg. It was a tough day, but you had to watch in 2005. You had to watch a pirated feed, and I remember going like, how is this a thing? 19 years later, it's still a thing, right? The fact that watching the teams in the Pacific Northwest just has always seemed to have been a chore, whether it was, you mentioned Blazer Vision, or that DirecTV didn't have NBC Sports Northwest, or that Root Sports was on an elevated platform, or that the Pac-12 network wasn't available. Just something about this part of the country, which, I'm from, you're from, and I love, but there's something about this part of the country. They just want to make it really hard for us to watch our teams play.
I mean, it seems that way, and I remember, back in the day, that there were games, maybe half the games were on KGW, and the other ones were on, some like random cable network that Paul Allen owned, and that was kind of where the Blazer Vision days originated, and like I wrote about, I remember, I think it was like Channel 45 or Channel 43 maybe, and it was static or maybe blue because of digital cable all day. Like there was nothing on that channel. And then at 7 o'clock, all of a sudden you'd hear like trumpets and orange and then red and black swirl on the screen. And it'd be like, this is Trailblazers broadcasting. And you get 2 hours of basketball, then go back to static. So hard to find, hard to sort of interact with. NBC Northwest, I was out of market for that, but seemed great. Just not everyone could get it, kind of like Root. And then Root was available, but also, and then when Root went up to the premium tier this last year, that was kind of the last straw. So it's always something. And you do see, kind of one thing that is like the death of these regional sports networks has really nudged teams and teams in the American West too to embrace an over-the-air broadcasting partner and saying, hey, this is not going to be something we use to line our pockets in the way that we have previously, because that Root Sports deal is very lucrative for the Trailblazers, and it is a business. I mean, they want money coming in from all venues. Getting out of that contract a year early and saying, hey, we're going to put these games on Coin or KPTV for significantly less money, does affect the bottom line. But everything else is growing so rapidly. There's so much potential with a subscription streaming service that, I think it just has to happen. But Root has just, it's just exceeded. To say it's worn out its welcome, or it has, it just hasn't worked out. And, Blazer fans aren't able to see the team as easily as they should. And I think particularly, Justin, and you'll understand this, but this, it's not just that they lost Dame and that, you're starting over and the team isn't very watchable. There is a second wave to a rebuild. It's the sadness of losing the star, sure. But you do have guys that you can build, broadcasts around, and who broadcasters can be excited to talk about. And this year was challenging because Shaden Sharp missed so many games. Anthony Simons missed so many games. DeAndre Ayton was kind of slow getting going, and so was Scoot Henderson. But, you want your fans seeing Scoot Henderson. You spent all of last summer saying, not saying, but sort of indicating like, hey, this is the guy that we can trade Damian Lillard for. We can trade Damian Lillard and replace him with this guy. And, instead, your fans didn't get to experience that. Your fans didn't get to come away with, really getting to know him in large part. And because, the games were not that accessible. I mean, I know there are plenty of people who got Root Sports who chose not to watch because the team wasn't very good, or because Scoot wasn't, playing well for the first few months, whatever the case may be. But you need to be putting those games in front of as many people as possible. And so there's a lot of factors that go into Blazers viewership being down 60%, which is the worst in the league. But you can't overlook the fact that two of the teams that grew their viewership the most were the two teams that did away with their RSN deals and went to local over-the-air broadcasting partners, the Phoenix Suns and the Utah Jazz. And the Jazz, by the way, are not that much better than the Blazers.
No, they're 31-51. They were not. They were 10 games better than the Blazers this year. One last thing before I let you go, got just about 90 seconds, Bill, because you mentioned it in your column that you would be surprised if the Root Sports deal continued. I know you talked about there's financial parts of it, but could this potentially? I compared it to the Costco rotisserie chicken, right? They don't make any money off the rotisserie chicken, but it's because you have to walk through the Costco to get to it. Is there a possibility that by next year, maybe we do see the Blazers' actual regular season games on free TV? Do you think that's a reality?
I do. I don't even think it's a possibility. I think it's a strong likelihood at this point, just given how much of a debacle this last year, especially, and the trend has been for the Blazers with Root Sports. I think that this is trending strongly in that direction. I think that, obviously the Blazers have to get a deal done. They have to find the right partner or partners locally. There's a lot of nuances to that. And then you have to figure out a streaming component, and there's probably potentially more roadblocks, with the NBA than with the NHL. But, the Blazers have, a broadcasting team in place. The Kraken, for example, used Root Sports broadcasters, facilities, cameras, all that, they were essentially contracted out to Root Sports. The Blazers will take all their people with them. I mean, it's going to be Kevin Calabro, Lamar Hurd, it's going to be Brooke, it's going to be, it's the same guys in the truck. I mean, they have a plug and play situation. They just need to find somebody to basically plug in the cord. And so I do expect that is going to happen at this point. I think it's a priority for the Blazers. I think they understand that, something is missing with their connection to the fan base. And there's a lot of pieces of that for when we have more time. But, the games not being easy to watch is certainly a big piece of it.
You can follow him on Twitter at Bill Oram. You can read his stuff in the Oregonian at OregonLive.com. Hey, Bill, thanks so much for the time. Always love talking to you. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
You too, Justin. Thanks for the time.
There you go, Bill Oram from the Oregonian. We have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio.
You familiar with this band?
Yeah, this is
Kind of a one-hit wonder.
Make you mine. Who is it again? I know the song.
Jet. Yeah.
That's right. I remember the song though.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're kind of a one-hit wonder. Yeah, kind of a one-hit wonder. But yeah.
This was a banger though.
It was. Sure was.
As a Beaver believer, Brenden, what do you think of what Bill had to say last segment?
Yeah.
About taking some chances with maybe games and scheduling of games, and like nobody wants to, right? Nobody wants to have to, and I think he wrote it in his column too. Like Boise State didn't want to have to play on blue turf, and I know that Oregon State doesn't want to be in that conversation, but you are.
Maybe we need orange turf. I mean, there are crazier things out there, are there not?
There are the red turf at Eastern Washington, but it's like this is the tough part. And again, I know coming from an arrogant Oregon fan, it sounds the worst coming from my mouth. I know that, but it's like this is where you're at now, and like playing a Tuesday game like the MAC does, like that gets some eyeballs on you. I don't know, but it's also I see the point where it's like, if you're Oregon State, do you concede? Do you concede and go like, yes, you beat us down. We're now Mountain West? Because I can see where some Oregon State fans are like, no, we keep fighting. We play at 12:30 on Saturdays. That's when we play because you never know. Like, are they going to expand the Big 12? We don't want to get lost in that. It's a tough spot to be in. I'm glad I'm not there.
Yeah, it's fair. It's entirely true, and I appreciate you not wanting to be there, Justin. That makes us feel better. When you're like, I wouldn't want to be there.
I'm saying I would not want to be the one in charge of the marketing decisions of like Oregon or
can't necessarily get any more
you know what I mean? I would not want to be in charge of the Pac-2 of like what do we do with TV? What do we do? Like do we play 9 a.m.? I mean, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That's where I'm saying I'm glad I'm not there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you got to do anything and everything. Orange turf would be kind of cool.
Like orange, black, like tiger stripe, like stripe.
Yeah, I mean,
But it starts with social media, though, right? You got it. Like I watched. There's a whole movie. Like Oregon football put out a movie of Bo Nix getting drafted in the first round. Like. They're on the plane with Dan Lane.
Again, this is such a deeper conversation.
They should have had somebody in Hawaii with the,
And I'll preface this, like, with Tullis, absolutely. And I'll preface this, Justin, by saying this. And I'll say that I love my school. I paid a lot of money to go to that school.
Yeah.
I'm still in debt for a long time.
Still paying it.
I love my school. I love my job. I love what I do. But, Justin, I think and this is going to sound like we've, screaming at cloud. Justin, if you can't even treat your media members properly, why would you think they would treat a national media branding seriously? We can't even give Bill Oram food at the spring game. Brenden food at the spring game.
I know.
I mean, I just think...
at least get a sub.
But you know what I mean?
Just like a 6-foot sub or something?
Like, if you're not going to show that you care about your media who cover your team, why would anyone... go above and beyond to want to put you on television.
I would, but I go a step, and I am both media and I am fan, right? I have season tickets and I am also media. The other part of it would be, you gave your fans nothing to get excited about, right? The one part is the media, but it's also like, anyways, we've had plenty of time to talk about that. Let's get the mailbag opened up.
It's time for the RCM mailbag. With any question, any topic, Justin can't duck the tough question. What do we have first?
Yeah, Justin, it's an interesting situation when I jumped for joy that there were Gatorades available at the spring game.
Hey.
Water and Gatorade.
What kind
we
of
thought
Gatorade?
it was just water going
kind
in.
Of Gatorade? Lemon lime?
Orange.
Orange is good.
Grape. And then
not a fan of grape.
White cherry. I went with the white cherry.
White cherry doesn't exist in nature.
Well,
I guess
frost.
it exists. The
cherry
frost.
Would.
I know.
You know what I mean. But yeah, I was like, we're all like, Gatorades. You should have seen it, man. Bill and Tyson will vouch that indeed happened.
I ride for lemon lime Gatorade. I do. And then I read somewhere, I think it was in Sports Illustrated for Kids one time, that Jordan's favorite Gatorade was orange. So that's all I drank was orange. But
I couldn't do it.
I love lemon lime Gatorade. Oh, man.
That was the first one? They come out with a couple at first.
When I was growing up, I remember there was lemon lime, there was orange, and there was red. Fruit punch maybe. But lemon lime. I love. It's got to be ice cold though. Ice cold lemon, and then I think grape
this is
came
fun.
later.
Yeah, okay, this is fun. So Florida Gators, OG
Yeah,
Gatorade.
Gatorade.
1967. Fruit Punch comes out in 83.
Yes.
So
I remember
Lemon
Fruit
Lime
Punch.
sat alone, Justin, for 16 big ones.
Oh yeah.
Or 13 big ones, excuse me. 13 big ones. God, that's why I'm on the radio,
We're good.
folks. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. You get, do you remember Gatorade Light?
No.
Okay, that came out in 1990.
Yeah, I was 10. I wasn't worried about calories back then.
Then we got basically got all the flavors we know now in the end of the 90s. Same time, Gatorade came out with Propel.
I remember
Which I was
Propel.
not a fan of Propel.
Oh, Propel Fitness Water.
Yeah, I wasn't a
remember
fan.
that.
I knew people who swore by it, though.
Electrolytes and yeah.
Who swore by it, though. But anywho,
Yeah.
got to get into the question I teased Justin
Okay.
several hours ago. And, folks, I was getting ready for this, and I said, now that my Roku TV is telling me that I need to stop watching TV and
Yes.
listen to Taylor Swift,
Boom.
I
30-some
decided
songs.
to ask Justin the question that I think needs to be asked. Now that Taylor Swift has broken, I think it was Ed Sheeran, Michael Jackson, all the major records as far as touring, right?
Yes.
And you get that because, again, it costs more for a ticket